But then all of a sudden we got this Lakers story, kerplunk, plopped in our lap. We had heard, there had been whispers that there was a negative piece coming out about the leadership of Magic Johnson. Remember, when Magic Johnson summarily resigned, there were stories that there was a story that ESPN.com was working on. It dropped today. And you know what it was? Basically everything we've told you. There was some insight. There was some detail. He talked to a lot of people. Maybe the most interesting of which was something I'll play for you in a moment. Rob Pelinka telling a story which is factually incorrect, impossible to have happened. But what have we told you about the Lakers? Going back to the trade deadline debacle, we said this was a coup d'etat. This was LeBron's group going, hey, we could take over the Cleveland Cavaliers. Hostile takeover at some point if we stay. Maybe we could somehow wrestle ownership away from the guy who, wrote that famous letter, right? Dan Gilbert, who of course apparently suffered some sort of mild stroke. Hope he gets better. But there was the thought, hey, why take over the Cavs? Why take over Northern Ohio when we can take over L.A., we can take over the Lakers? They already had a couple clients on the Lakers. They could land free agent clients on the Lakers. They could hire their own coach. LeBron and Rich Paul could be the acting GMs. And everything you read essentially says as much, that this is part of the fight. How much do you let those guys be around? How much say should they have? Magic Johnson apparently not as smiley and as huggable when he's trying to lead an organization. Did they get rid of some people? They did. Apparently 37.5% of the employees that were there before Magic and Pelinka took over are no longer there. That happens with every regime change. Maybe not with the Lakers because they're more of a mom and pop. But the idea that Magic is not what he seemed to be, or that Magic was a guy who wanted autonomous power yet didn't want to put in the work, and then questioned anybody who questioned him. And when things went wrong, he was accountable in terms of holding everyone else except himself accountable. Completely believable. Rob Pelinka's an agent. Agents have a tendency to embellish and flat out make things up. All that seemed to play out. Right? I mean, the idea that Rich Paul wanted to make a coaching change and went to the commissioner of the NBA to express his desire for the Lakers to change coaches is exactly what we've told you. Rich Paul's feeling himself. Found himself in L.A. with what he thought was the most powerful player in the NBA. And even on a chessboard, though the queen is the most powerful, the queen does not have autonomous power. The queen is not Thanos. He's not Thanos, right? He can't snap his fingers and half the Lakers disappear, although they tried. Right? That's a movie. This is real life. And yeah, Jeannie Buss is way in over her head. And when Magic quit, she went dark on people because she didn't want to say or do or act the wrong way because I'm sure she was ticked. Because that is what doesn't appear to happen when you have a unified front. Right? Like all of these things are understandable. And if anything, the explanation that I got without it being explained in the piece was that Jeannie and her crew, Linda Rambis, they realized it's a coup d'etat, and they weren't going to roll out the red carpet for Ty Lue. They didn't want him to be a coach beyond LeBron James. You know why? Because when LeBron's done, they want LeBron to be done. They don't want LeBron to have some sort of power, whether it's coach or GM or player or etc. So do I think the piece is some sort of certificate on how great journalism still exists? Not really. Do I think there are outright lies in the piece? No, but there are some parts to it which clearly reported on from the perspective of somebody that's not inside the know, right? Like Amari Spellman wasn't drafted, even though they thought they were going to draft Amari Spellman. And there's two war rooms, and one war room is made up of the non-players. By players, I mean Magic and Pelinka. And so when they didn't draft Amari Spellman, Instead, they drafted Mo Wagner. It perked up their ears, but that happens. I mean, I've heard Amari Spellman's got bad knees. He couldn't practice all the time in college because of the weight that he used to carry, and Mo Wagner had a clean slate, so he was on the do not draft list. That's why they passed on him. Look, people in that same secondary war room didn't want them to draft Lonzo Ball. You know, they preferred De'Aaron Fox. They preferred several others who came in on workouts. But they don't get to make the decision. Pelinka and Magic did. And Magic had an affinity for Lonzo Ball, who may well become a very, very good player, but there's a mistake that he has never owned. So my takeaway for the piece is, it may feel like a hit piece. I think it's pretty well researched, but I don't think it's from people so much in the know, even though most of what they're saying does appear to be accurate. Like, here's an example. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope was allowed to practice and play while serving a 25-day jail sentence for violating the terms of his probation stemming from a DUI charge, a decision that multiple team staffers said caused unrest in the franchise. Caldwell-Pope was allowed to leave the Seal Beach Police Department detention center to attend practice in Laker games as part of a work release program. He wasn't allowed to travel outside the state, resulting in him missing one game in Cleveland, one in Memphis, and two in Houston. Quote, anyone else who would have put him on personal leave or suspended him, one coaching staff member said. I've talked to people in the Lakers, and they were like, look, it was weird. The guy was in the facility at 6 a.m. every day because all he wanted to do is get out of the detention center, and he was a show up late, leave early guy, and all of a sudden he's a show up early, leave late guy, eat all his meals there because then he could visit his family there. But remember, he also served a two-week suspension from the NBA because of the DUI, which was in the offseason before he officially became a Laker. And they didn't really have any other option. This was not on this year's team. This was on last year's team when they were just trying to be young and win games. And if they didn't have Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, they would have had to activate Luol Deng, and that didn't work. If you don't believe me, look at Luol Deng. He started the first game of the season and then has not played another game in the NBA. So it's not a crap article, but the perspectives from which it's presented are not always in the know, but you get the gist of everything we've told you about the Lakers. And at the end of it, Jeanie's still in charge. So is Rob Pelinka. They still have LeBron James, and Magic Johnson does not appear to be the guy that smiles and is super happy and just wants everybody to have fun. Got it?